Writing. The morning sun had barely climbed above the city skyline when one cruel moment changed several lives forever. People rushed through the busy downtown plaza without slowing down, pretending not to notice as an elderly woman stood trembling beside a fallen grocery bag while strangers mocked her worn clothes and weathered hands. Some laughed. Others recorded the humiliation on their phones. No one stepped forward. No one except one exhausted black single father who had every reason to keep walking, but chose compassion instead. That single decision would uncover a truth so unbelievable that it would shake one of the city's most powerful families forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness still matters and that every person deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Heartline Stories. Your support helps us continue bringing powerful stories that remind the world humanity still exists. Malik Turner had never expected life to become so difficult. At 34 years old, he worked long hours as a city bus mechanic, spending every day covered in grease and every evening rushing home to care for his 7-year-old daughter, Nia. Since losing his wife to illness 3 years earlier, every sunrise meant another battle against exhaustion, unpaid bills, and the constant fear that he might somehow fail the little girl who depended entirely on him. Yet despite the weight resting on his shoulders, Malik had made one promise to himself after his wife's passing. No matter how hard life became, he would never allow hardship to steal his compassion. That promise was tested on an ordinary Tuesday morning. As Malik and Nia walked toward her school before he headed to work, they noticed the elderly woman standing near the entrance of an expensive shopping district. Her gray coat was clean but old, her shoes showed years of use, and her grocery bag had split open across the sidewalk. Fresh fruit rolled into the street while several elegantly dressed shoppers looked down on her with open disgust. One impatient man complained that she was blocking the walkway. Another woman whispered loud enough for everyone to hear that people like her didn't belong in that neighborhood. Every cruel word seemed heavier than the groceries scattered around her feet. Nia looked up at her father with worried eyes, silently asking the question children often ask without speaking. Malik didn't hesitate. He knelt beside the elderly woman, gathered every piece of fruit from the pavement, carefully packed her belongings into a new reusable bag he had in his backpack, and gently helped her back onto the bench. He offered her the lunch he had packed for himself because he noticed her hands trembling from hunger. While everyone else saw inconvenience, Malik saw someone's mother, someone's grandmother, someone deserving of dignity. The elderly woman introduced herself only as Evelyn. Her voice carried quiet grace despite the humiliation she had endured. She thanked Malik repeatedly, but what moved her most wasn't the groceries or the meal. It was the way little Nia smiled at her as though kindness were the most natural thing in the world. For the first time that morning, tears filled Evelyn's eyes, not from sadness, but because someone had finally looked beyond her appearance. Malik apologized that he couldn't stay longer because work awaited, but before leaving, he wrote his phone number on a receipt and handed it to Evelyn, telling her that if she ever needed help getting groceries again, she should never hesitate to call. He expected nothing in return. In fact, he forgot about the encounter before lunchtime, believing he had simply done what any decent person should. Across town, however, a different story was unfolding. Evelyn wasn't simply an elderly woman struggling through the city. She was the mother of Victoria Langston, founder and CEO of one of the region's largest technology companies. Evelyn often dressed modestly because she believed true character was revealed when people assumed you had nothing. She disliked expensive cars, luxury clothing, and special treatment. Without security guards or assistants nearby, she quietly observed how strangers treated one another. That morning had broken her heart. But one man had restored her faith. When Victoria learned what had happened to her mother, she was furious, not because of the insults alone, but because dozens of people had ignored someone in obvious distress. Then Evelyn handed her the small receipt with Malik's phone number. Instead of rewarding him immediately, Evelyn asked her daughter to meet him naturally. She wanted to know whether the kindness had been genuine or performed for recognition. A week later, Malik received an unexpected call inviting him to interview for a maintenance supervisor position at Langston Innovations. He almost declined, convinced someone had dialed the wrong number. His current job barely covered rent, but it was stable. Still, encouraged by Nia, he attended the interview wearing his only suit, carefully pressed the night before. Walking into the company's headquarters, Malik was stunned when he recognized the elegant woman greeting him. Standing beside the CEO was Evelyn, smiling warmly. Suddenly every piece of the puzzle came together. Embarrassed, Malik apologized, assuming he had unknowingly crossed paths with someone important. Instead, Evelyn embraced him like family. Victoria explained that her mother had spoken of nothing else for an entire week. She had described not a hero, but a father whose compassion had survived grief, poverty, and loneliness. Victoria admitted that leadership meant little if her company failed to recognize people with character like his. As the golden afternoon sunlight filled the city once again, Malik realized something extraordinary. He had never set out to impress a CEO or change his future. He simply refused to let another human being suffer alone. In a world where many people walked past pain without looking twice, his simple choice to stop had transformed not only his own life but the lives of everyone connected to that moment. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all was this: you never truly know whose life you're touching when you choose kindness, but kindness always finds its way back home.